What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're talking about Summerland, a queer 2020 coming-of-age comedy directed by Curtis David Harder and Noah Kentis, otherwise known as Lanky Boy. I was given an advanced screener of the film for an honest review, and as usual with screeners, I had to check it out. Watching screeners is always an interesting experience. Just like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. It's always a bit of a blind viewing. I've both seen films that I've loved, that blew my mind, as well as films that I found to be mostly mediocre. So where does this one lie? Let's get a little bit dauntless, and let's get crackin'. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, dauntless, showing fearlessness and determination. Summerland takes a group of young friends on a road trip together as they venture to a music festival called the titular Summerland. Oliver, an openly gay man, plans to meet his crush at the music festival. There's only one problem. He's been catfishing his crush and pretending to be a girl on a Christian dating website. There's both things that I really enjoyed about this movie as well as didn't. Let's start with the good. There was definitely something going on behind the scenes that impressed me, that mostly had to do with how the film as a whole looked. The first impressions that came to me was maybe a number of student filmmakers with an extreme passion in the art of filmmaking without the need for a high budget. They knew how to utilize little things like setting up camera angles and very faint overall filters that just make it look that much neater. That, combined with certain on-screen visuals like texting bubbles that float on the screen, which isn't hard to do, it just looks nice, as well as certain moments of editing, really made the film look and feel warm and fun. Plus, you really do have to give it credit because they were able to do all this with probably a pretty substantially low budget, so they knew their constraints and they approached them incredibly well. I also want to mention the fact that at the very heart of the film, I did find the premise compelling. You're talking about a main character catfishing somebody else. Now, Catfishing is almost always seen as something malicious and abusive. People catfish others to either expose them, bully them, troll them, harass them, or even stalk and kill them. Usually nothing good comes out of catfishing. But this was an interesting approach as it had to do more with confidence because you had this guy really interested in this other guy who he's pretty sure is actually gay, and to help him realize that he's pretending to be a girl. But you're also watching thinking, that can't be the only reason he's catfishing. Because it also has to deal with his own confidence in talking to others, which is great, but it would have been better if this was not an openly gay guy. Everybody knows he's gay, and they already accept him, so I'm not sure why he feels the need to catfish somebody else. If he was entirely closeted, that would make actually a little bit more sense, as it's a way for this guy to feel that attention and admiration that he deeply desires, even though he's too afraid to come out as gay. That I would understand. This, not so much. I feel like it was actually a slight misjudgment on the writer's end, and I feel like this film kept on making those kinds of misjudgments over and over again, which brings it back to the whole student film thing. I feel like when it comes down to film school, not to say that's what this is, I feel like film school does a great job teaching you the art of film, the cinematography, smart practical uses for visuals, great editing, and how music and sound plays into film, but film school doesn't have as much focus on the writing aspect. They teach you how to take any given story and make the best possible version of it for a film medium, but if you don't have the best writing, then no matter how great the film looks, it'll still be imperfect, and that's how I ultimately feel about Summerland. It's a film with some significantly lacking writing. Well, what do I mean by that? First of all, it's a coming-of-age film, which, granted, has never really been my favorite subgenre, but I can appreciate certain films like that because these are the types of movies that normally relish heavily on character development, which shouldn't have ever been a problem here because this is a very small cast. There's like 3 main characters, there's the crush, there's some guy that they keep calling in the middle of the movie. That's it, that's basically the entire cast, yet none of them have a ton of growth nor are very likable. From the very beginning, you know very little about Summerland itself and why it's so utterly important to every one of these guys. It just is, making the location itself a MacGuffin. Even way back with National Lampoon's Vacation, Wally World was important in the same light, but you knew what made it so personal for the Griswolds, made even more interesting by the fact that some wanted to go there, some didn't. It wasn't so much of a MacGuffin as Summerland was because it was developed, and Summerland as a location wasn't developed at all. As for these characters, none of them are super likable because they're all doing somewhat questionable things without much reason or growth. The main character is lying to the guy that he supposedly really likes and catfishing him. His British best friend is also lying to his girlfriend. The girl in the film isn't great or terrible, but she isn't much of anything. She's a nothing character. And all 3 of them combined are apparently addicted to drugs, and they won't say no to any kind of strange new drug introduced to them. Everything's fair game. And why? What's the point? I don't have a huge problem with stoner comedies because usually the drugs in those films serve an additional purpose where the movie wouldn't even work without the drugs. Not so here. The drugs don't do anything. They don't add to the film's plot. It's just more random things to expand the runtime. It also makes the characters less likable than they already were. So let's take a look at my final score for a second. From an unbiased technical vantage point, this film isn't bad. Like I said, they were smart when it came down to the art of film, but because writing and character development are both included with how I reviewed a technical part of a film, the score is still lower than what's preferred at 58%. And because I was mostly annoyed with the lack of writing, and because I didn't personally like these characters that much, my personal bias score is lower at 46%, averaging everything out to a final score of 52%, 52 out of 100 possible stars, granting Summerland with a failing letter grade of F. I'm sorry, I really did want to like this film because at the heart, there's a concept that I think holds a lot of promise, but the execution was not perfect. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Summerland in the comments down below. Have you seen it? Are you looking forward to it? And if you have, how would you score it? Let me know. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this review and would like to see some others like it. Hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified when I come out with the next review. And until then, peace out!
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us.